It is the Fatboy Show on RX Radio. My name is Fatboy and I'm here with Olive. How are you doing today? We are both today wearing red, although mine is of a slightly paler shade. Don't worry, it says nothing about our political affiliations, although in Olive's case, I'm not so sure.
Why are you throwing me under the bus?
She does offer some very sympathetic opinions when it
It's-
comes to the activities of certain political parties.
No, do not
Makes you wonder.
Do not say that. I am neutral. When NRM does something right, I'm going to say, by the way, NRM did this. But when NUP does something bad, I'm still going to call them out.
Okay, so I challenge you. Name one thing the NRM has done right.
Why are you putting me on the spot? We sleep. Isn't that what our parents said? We sleep.
So we sleep, so that's good enough.
That's good enough.
All right. Well, on the show today, I wanted us to explore the issue of growth and what it might mean for each one of us as individuals and also as a society when you look at it at a wider scale. Because we exist to change and to grow, to not remain the same way that we were, but ideally to become better than the person that we were yesterday. And this applies in terms of our academic qualifications, in terms of our career aspirations, in terms of our relationships or family aspirations. We aim to be better tomorrow than we were yesterday. And of course, each person has their own barometer of how they will gauge their level of growth, or even what are the things that matter to them in which they feel there should be growth. For me personally, I've always enjoyed personal growth in terms of developing my understanding. I do like to soak myself in a lot of information. Admittedly, I don't read a lot of books, and I wonder whether books still hold sway in the digital era. Because when I hear someone say, "Oh, I'm reading this book," or "I've read these books," to me, what I hear is I have absorbed one perspective on a particular issue. I feel like I have a better understanding of what's going on when I encounter a discussion in a forum where I will hear varying views on a particular subject, and out of the confusion, or I should say, out of the exchange of ideas will emerge a viewpoint that for me comports best with reality, and then that sort of becomes my opinion until I'm informed otherwise. So I'm very much a person that revels in that. My entertainment mostly consists of binge watching YouTube videos. Like, my whole internet data just goes on YouTube. I get home, sit, and I just press play, and it'll be a lecture on something, a debate on something else, and it'll just be like that all through the night. And sometimes I wake myself up in the middle of the night to find that I've left YouTube running. So that's how I spend my evenings, and that's how that is the area of growth that interests me the most. How about you?
I like to educate myself like you, but unlike you, I still read books. And I believe that, reading, when I read one author, yes, you could be right. There is one perspective from one person's point of view, but then I don't read one book. I will read this one and I'll read this one, but also there are many articles online because I read books and I also read articles. There is a lot to learn from different people's perspectives. And then, of course, on the forums, like you said, the problem I have with forums is that sometimes people's opinions are more based on anecdotes or sometimes personal feelings because they feel it, because someone told them that, then it has to be true. Though I like to have intellectual conversations with people, because there is someone who writes and you're like, this person is intelligent. Probably they do their homework, they do their research. Now that is the kind of debate I want to be involved in, not these aimless debates you find where people are just, but my mom said, but my dad said, so who is your dad and who cares?
Well, I feel like we need to give ourselves more credit than we normally do. As human beings, I think we're able to understand the truth. And one big tragedy that has happened in the last 15 years has been the closing of shutting down of comment sections in news articles. Back when the internet was still in its infancy, or when it was really just booming, right, in the earlier stages, of course, all news outlets wanted interaction with their readers. And so they would leave an interactive page for comments, people to leave comments on the various articles that they would publish. CNN used to do this, BBC used to do this, but at some point what used to happen is that they would often get the facts wrong. Both usually for normal sort of human reasons, as in, maybe you didn't check all the facts, or maybe you could have been sloppy or lazy, or maybe the article might be so biased because it's reliant on one source, or it could be the article is essentially just an agenda screed. Someone's just pushing an agenda, and then they will be called out in the comments. So what these major online news publications decided to do was to claim that, it's just hate speech. So they would pick on the comments of one or two or three trolls that were saying like offensive things and say, so because of that, we're shutting down comments. And so they thought that by doing so, they would be able to preserve their credibility by not being challenged. Because what used to happen is people would go to news articles to just read comments. People would feel like they'd get a better sense of the story by reading the comments, because usually someone in the comments is better informed than the author of the article being commented on, right? And usually less biased, or if biased, at least will be willing to defend his points with facts, as opposed to the journalist who will simply assume that you should treat his article as gospel. So we have a severe lack of confidence in news sources now, and I think they've brought this upon themselves. And I kind of enjoyed, the back and forth of people putting their different viewpoints forward. Of course, some say this has led to a highly divided world because people have started leaning towards more extreme views. There's less of a common ground now, and maybe that's not a good thing. But I still think, for better or worse, it is better to allow for people to discuss and exchange ideas.
Yeah, it is okay for people to discuss and exchange ideas. And if someone is a journalist, a writer, and your article is lacking in facts, maybe what you have to do is go back and fact check, get more sources, because that is what true journalism is supposed to be. You do not tell people what to believe. You put the facts there for them, and then let them, read and decipher and take what or understand things the way they feel fit. But also, there was hate speech in the comment section, because even today, even if it is just our daily monitor, read an article and then go into the comment section, you're going to find some people just trolling, others abusing each other. Like, you'll find a comment that has like 500 responses and people are having a fight. It has nothing to do with the article that has been shared. So maybe it begs for the question, is the comment section worth it if people are going to just engage in other battles unrelated to the article itself?
I feel like there's room for everyone. So there's room for trolling, there's room for personal insults, but by singling out the insults and the trolling and saying, therefore, we shut down. I feel like the news media are conveniently creating a scapegoat to excuse their own malfeasance, journalistic malfeasance. And they have been exposed so many times. So and as a person who is active on social media, and I participate in social media as a content creator, and I go there to start discussions and things like that, I'm quite happy to be the target of trolling. And speaking
of being the target and starting debates and conversations, because you started by saying that some writings, like people who read books, are getting one person's perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And also, as your follower, I've also realized that what you post, the discussions that you start, are all more or less about the same thing all the time. If you're not trolling women, if you're not trolling marriage, as in you're known for those two things. And honestly speaking, as a critical observer, I see those are the conversations you start. So don't you also run the risk of someone saying Fatboy or has one opinion and that's it? He's only talking about this thing from this perspective all the time? Because I've also realized that people who have a different opinion as opposed to yours, you normally call them clowns, and you tell them that they have low IQ.
Yeah, where it is warranted, I will say that. But in my defense, when it comes to the subject matter I cover, I invite you to look through my page. You probably come across the posts which have attracted high engagement. So what will normally happen is I'll have, in a day, maybe I may post 10 things. And usually 4 out of 10 times it's wildlife related. If you've noticed, it'll be a video of a hyena ripping apart an impala or something like that. I'm fascinated by these videos. And it'll only be the posts that are related to a particular topic that will attract the engagement.
But
so in other words, so a casual visitor might think this is all this guy posts about. I will post about 10 other things, and those posts will get 0 comments, 1 at best. There are even some people who comment, how come no one is commenting on this one? Because usually the subject in question will be of something a bit more advanced. It could be economic, it could be political or scientific.
And I understand that.
But they don't touch
you
those.
Also know, as a content creator, like you said, you also know the things that make people talk. And for those ones, you go in full throttle.
I'm saying if a post attracts engagement, I'd be a fool to not interact with that material, right? Because, we're operating in the attention economy. And so if a subject draws interest, and unfortunately, we in the media know this only too well. Because if we're not discussing things that are of interest or relevance to our fans and followers, can we survive?
But what you're trying to dodge is the one point, and you're trying to get out of you saying that news media or even other media that normally people are looking, they have one perspective and they don't want to hear the other side of the coin. And all I'm saying is that most of your posts, yes, you post other things, and I'm not just a casual visitor. I follow you. I read the things you post. And I can personally say that majority of the things that you milk, like you said, the content that gets you traction and the content that you keep posting is normally pretty much about the same thing. And your perspective, I think this is where my challenge is that once you make your standpoint, it doesn't matter what other people say. It doesn't matter what evidence they will bring. You're going to stand by it. You will not give it a thought of, okay, maybe you have a point. As long as they disagree with your standpoint, you're going to now start trolling, calling them clowns. And for me, I'm like, okay, so who is a clown and who has a low IQ? Is it because they disagree with your standpoint?
I'm okay with people disagreeing with me in an intelligent manner. But if your response to me includes insults, which 9 out of 10 times they normally do, then I have to respond in kind. I subscribe to the philosophy of you throw a stone at me, I throw a grenade back.
But I've actually seen you troll people when they have not insulted you.
Not really.
Yes.
No, usually it is called for. And by the way, and those comments, I leave them there, and they'll receive a lot of support from like-minded individuals. Oh, thank you for schooling Fatboy on this issue. So it's all very good. I think debate means being willing to have the conversation. I don't need to convince you, or you don't need to be convinced by me. And if I don't convince you, I won't hold it against you, or I might. But if you don't convince me either, that's just it's sports and it's entertainment.
But we're having the conversation. Do you ever go into a debate with an open mind of, okay, I can be convinced? Because you like to say, convince me, debate me. But in most cases, even when someone puts up a spirited fight or spirited argument that has some facts in there, most times you're not going to see things their way, because I think you come in when you're ready. No, this is where I stand, and that is not going to change.
Matters aren't helped when the common retorts are retorts or responses that I've already encountered and experienced. So at that point, it gets boring. But also, you have to understand that social media debate can be skewed because a lot of the back and forth is performative. Like, we are arguing in front of spectators, so we're trying to hit hard and create the best impact. So when people are arguing, it normally will not be in good faith. For example, me and Wotsomu Wanda, who's regular on the Fatboy Shop, we used to go back and forth, and it would very quickly devolve to petty insults. But again, that's social media, because people are just trying to economize time You just want to go in with a slam dunk response, shut down the discussion, declare yourself winner, and move on to the next thing, right? So everyone comes in hard, and so there's really no room for any useful conversation. But now, having met Wosomu and sat with him and had conversations with him like normal civil people, we find that we have enriched each other's knowledge more significantly than we were doing on Facebook, do you see? Which is why I've invited many of my detractors to come on the show about any issue that they feel strongly about in disagreement with me. Let's have that conversation. Lindsay, who has previously blocked me on Facebook, I invited her here. We had a civil conversation. You see, actually, we need to encourage more of that. Social media perhaps brings the worst out of everyone.
Anyway, there is something about writing. When you're reading something that has been written, in most cases, you cannot tell the tone of the other person. You're going to assume things. When you read something, the way you feel it is you will think that this is the same tone the other person used in writing it. So you're going to feel attacked when the other person is not even trying to attack you.
That's true, right? Now, usually people use emojis to try to diffuse that kind of tension.
Yeah.
But it's always open to misinterpretation.
Exactly.
So, as far as growth goes, I think let's do that. Let's have more conversations, and especially with people that disagree with us. And they can learn something from you, and you can learn something from them. And if there is a lesson to be learned, it is the fact that we are not perfect and no one knows everything.
No one knows everything. Though Fatboy always seems like he knows everything.
But don't I know everything?
Especially about marriage. Please note, he's never been married. They tell us not to listen to our unmarried friends, and I will not listen to Fatboy when I find a husband.
Oh yeah, he better not listen to me because he might be like, yeah, I should have listened to Fatboy. This marriage
gosh.
thing, it ain't funky.